Hey everyone, Miss Ware is here. Today in our theory lesson, we're going to be talking about dotted half notes. So go ahead and take your page, and we're going to title it Dotted Half Notes. Now, before I talk about what a dotted half note is, what it looks like, how to draw it, and how to label, first we have to know what the dot is, what that does. So here we go, our first definition, and put a star next to this because it's super important. The dot adds half of that note's value. So it's super important. It depends on what type of note that dot is attached to. Today, we're going to talk about the half note in particular. Another thing is that there's different types of dots and they do different things. The dot that we're talking about today is going to be placed on the right side of the note. That's going to be super important because if we see a dot that's above or below, and we'll talk about that a little bit here in just a second, that's going to do something completely different. The dot that we're talking about today, the dotted half note, that dot is going to be on the right side. So here we go, we're going to talk about our half note here for a second, just as a quick review. Our half note takes up 2 beats. Within each one of our half notes, it has 2 quarter notes, and each one of these quarter notes take up 1 beat. So go ahead and draw those quarter notes. Make sure you write how many beats they're equal to. Half note is 2 beats, and the quarter note, each one of them equals 1 beat. Now we're gonna do just a little bit of math here. Don't worry, it's gonna be super easy. So if our dot adds half of the value, and our half note takes up 2 beats. Here we go, 2 beats. Plus, because the dot is adding half of the value, what is half of 2? 1, that's right. So we're gonna be adding 1 to the current value of 2. So plus 1, and everybody, we know what 2 plus 1 is, that is 3. Now we're gonna draw in notes underneath these numbers that are going to represent how long they last. So our 2, we know that our half note takes up 2 beats. So right underneath the 2, make sure they're lined up, you're gonna draw your half note. Add the plus sign because that's what our dot is gonna do. And what type of note takes up 1 beat? Well, if you look up here in our chart, we know that that is gonna be our quarter note. So draw a quarter note. And together, those 2 values of notes are going to equal our dotted half note. And it's gonna look something like this. Draw a half note, and then to the right side, you're gonna add a dot. Oop. Just 1 dot. I'm trying to make it a little bigger. Okay, I'm struggling here. There we go. So again, that dot is gonna be on the right side of that note. That's how we know that it's gonna add half the value, and as we know, a dotted half note is gonna equal 3 beats. It's kind of like a period at the end of your sentence. So let's go ahead and move down. I'm gonna talk real quick about what those other dots are and what they do. So if you see a dot that is on the top or on the bottom, write this down so that you know you have it for reference. These might look a little familiar. These are also in our warm-up packet, and they do something a little bit different. These notes are called staccato. And what they do is different to the notes. They make the sound or the length, the value of the note short. So staccato, when it's added on top or below the note, whatever it is, it makes that sound shorter than what it originally would be. But if we add the dot to the right side, which is what we're practicing today, that actually makes it longer, right? Because it adds half of the value that it already has. Like our dotted half note, it already has 2 beats, but we're adding half to it, so 3 is bigger than 2. Let's go ahead and we're gonna try putting our dotted half note into some measures. Go ahead and draw a measure. We're gonna start with 4/4 time. It's always important that we write our time signature so we know how many beats are in the measure. So this measure we know is gonna have 4 beats total. Let's go ahead and start off with our dotted half note. So make sure you write it above that line so that we can clearly see that dot that you put next to it. And we're gonna label our dotted half note. As we know, it takes up 3 beats. So it always starts on 1 if it's in the beginning of the measure, -2, -3. So that's all 3 beats. But this measure, we're in 4/4 time, which means that we actually have 4 beats total. We've already used 3, so what's left is 1. So what type of note takes up 1 beat? Quarter note. Let's go ahead and draw a quarter note to finish out this measure. And that is going to be labeled number 4. Now, if you notice, there's no dash in between 3 and 4 because those are 2 separate notes. So we want to keep them separated. All right, let's do another example. Draw a new rhythm staff. This time our time signature is going to be 3/4. So this time, total, we're only going to have 3 beats. Let's draw in our dotted half note. Just like that, just add a little dot to the right side of your note and let's label it. So the beginning of the measure, this is the first note, so it has to start with 1. And it takes up 3 beats, 1-2-3. And because our time signature is 3/4, that's all that we can fit in that measure because the dotted half note takes up 3 beats total. So that's all for that one. Let's do one more example. This one's gonna be a little more tricky. So make it a little longer because we're gonna have a bigger time signature here. I wanna do 7/4. 7's on the top. Remember, that top number can be anything. So today we're gonna be practicing 7/4, which means there's 7 beats in the measure. Quarter note receives the beat. But I don't wanna start with our dotted half note because we did that on the past 2 examples. Let's start with the quarter note. So remember, no matter which note starts us off, it's always gonna be labeled 1. Now I wanna do a half rest. So a half rest, remember, is on the top of the line, needs to be filled in. Make sure you fill it in. And because it's a rest, it's gonna be in parentheses. But first, we gotta know which count it starts on. So we already used beat 1. So the next beat is gonna be 2-3. And those are gonna go in parentheses. So that first number is always gonna be lined up with the note. The first number is always lined up. So far, we've used up 3 of our 7 beats total. Now I wanna go ahead and put in our dotted half note. So write in our half note. Remember, half notes are empty. And you have your little dot to the right side of that note. That means we're adding half of the value. So we've already used beat 1, 2, 3. The next beat is gonna be beat 4. Now total, this dotted half note has to take up 3 beats. So beat 4-5-6. So these 3 numbers together, it equals up a total of 3 beats. It doesn't always have to start on beat 1. And then, so we've used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have one more beat that we can use. Let's go ahead and draw a quarter rest. So this is gonna be our beat 7, and it's gonna be in parentheses. So make sure you have this written down. That's just a few examples of how we can use our dotted half notes. That's all I have for you guys today on our theory. Make sure that you get this submitted to your assignment on Canvas, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.